you know?
Oh, I thought maybe
High school again.
I thought maybe you couldn't hear me because
Oh no, yeah. It was just like talking to my screen, and nothing was coming back, and it was like, oh, okay. And then it was like, you've been forcibly kicked. Wah. Ah.
All right. Well, we are live here, and welcome to the Spoiler Room Therapy Session number 110, where today we will talk about the post-traumatic stress we suffer from Watership Down. Yes, folks, we are continuing animated November here, and today we are looking at, and I thought it was so appropriate to watch this movie before Thanksgiving. Because I'm a horrible person like that. And so we're going to discuss 1978 Watership Down. And I have a great group of Spoiler Room crew members to join me today for this discussion. First off, we have Mr. Cole Meredith. Hello, Cole.
Hello, Mark. Thanks for having me, my friend.
Glad to have you here. And the BFD is in his house again, and always glad to have him in here. It's the one and the only Mr. Glenn Bittner. Hello, Glenn.
Hi.
and next to Glenn is that wonderful bow tie man himself, Paul Salzer. Hello, Paul.
Hello, how are you? And hi.
Hi. And today, yes, we are looking at Watership Down. Based off of the book of the same name, you get a story of a group of rabbits who flee their doomed warren and face many dangers to find and protect their new home. And on the surface, yeah, that's what this film is. But it is animated. It is definitely something that I think sticks in your brain when you see it. Now, I remember watching this in school, in elementary school. They played this because we were reading the book, and they thought it was a great idea to play this movie as well. So we watched this in elementary school, actually, if I remember correctly, is when we were covering the book in like 5th or 6th grade. Glenn, what's your first memory? When did you see Watership Down?
I first saw Watership Down at 12:37 p.m.
Really? Is that the first? That's the first time you actually watched it?
The first time I've seen it all the way through from start to finish. I've always caught snippets of it here and there.
Uh-huh.
So today was the first time I've watched it completely in one sitting.
Oh, that's awesome. And Paul, how about you? First time you saw Watership Down?
Probably same as you, middle school. Very little recollection of what the film was actually about, and more of all the pieces that I remember came back. And when I finally did watch it yesterday, I just was like, oh, all this stuff came back and rushing back. It was great.
Yeah, I watched it again just today, too. It's been a many, many, many moons since I had watched it before then. And I watched it again. I'm like, oh, so this is what the film's about.
Exactly.
Because as a kid, you don't exactly pick all of that. You just pick the blood and guts, which this film actually has. And speaking of blood and guts, Cole.
Whoa.
Our horror
no,
man.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Cole, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to cut off your intro.
No, go ahead.
Like you, Mark, I saw this film for the first time in elementary school. Mm-hmm. Aldo Leopold in Madison. I haven't been back there since I moved, but it'd be curious to see what the neighborhood is now. But it was exactly like you said. We were reading the book. I believe my 3rd or 4th grade teacher, extremely hip lady. I can only hope that my stepson is being taught by the same educated teachers now, but she read the book aloud from cover to cover and then showed us the cartoon when it was done. And wow, man. To think, this is, I believe, before Halloween 4 had come out, I believe. And I had written my own little short story that sort of brought Michael Myers back and read that to the class, I believe, in the 3rd grade. And everybody gave me a bunch of shit for it, which I can understand now that I'm 37. But a couple weeks later, they show us this. You know? Wow.
Yeah.
It's excruciatingly violent, I have to say, and there's nothing else like it in terms of kids' movies, at least not to my taste. You know,
quote unquote kids' movies.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I want to go back to Glenn because this was his first, full viewing in that. Glenn, is this something that can you believe that they actually showed in elementary school?
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course. we didn't coddle children back then.
Well, yeah, back then you're right. Yeah, it's true because folks.
Have you seen Disney's The Black Hole?
Yeah, which we did talk about on this show, and this is another one. Yeah, family movies were done differently back then. And yes, folks, what we're alluding to is this film is actually very dark and violent in many ways. Now, as an adult, I appreciate this, but we joke, but it's true that the majority of us saw this when we were children in school, and it had a lasting effect on us. I think it stuck with us. That's for sure. I remember.
Yeah.
In fact, I there were some parts that I had blocked out with this film, but we're going to just discuss some of the characters and some of the other things in here, but especially this one, because what is interesting is, first, what stands out for me is the style of art compared to the other two films we've watched, which was Heavy Metal and Wizards. And in this one, it was handled I thought the animation was handled differently in this. I got the feel like they were going more for kind of a storybook feel. Paul, did you get that as well with the animation? Because, I mean, that's the first thing that kind of strikes you when you watch this film.
It did seem very, well, I don't know, it just seemed very realistic to me. I loved the way they animated the rabbits themselves and how they moved. They seemed very, very realistic, and I think that draws you in. But then there are these other scenes, like when they jump into the rabbit mythos, and they start talking about the sun god, and that art form changes, and then you get all these like images of circles, and if as an adult I was watching the animation and I saw all these circles that I didn't notice before, and it was like, oh my god, this is really neat how they did that. They incorporated the whole style of circles and all these things in various aspects. So I don't know if they were intentionally doing it, but it would be great if that was their intention.
It's art, so I would imagine that probably was the intention of the circle and rounds, and because that's natural and everything comes full circle, kind of like in this film. There's some of that theme as well.
Is that storybookish, or is that just, I don't know?
No, not the circles, but I mean just the way it was hand drawn, and that you could actually kind of see a little bit of imperfection in the lines, more so than I think in the other ones.
Oh yeah,
the other two that we watched, it was like it was someone. It was like tiny little trees. It was like they were, Pete Ross was going as along and
making happy trees.
As he told the story. Glenn, what about you with the artwork in this? Did you feel that they were kind of maybe going for more of a storybook type feel than, say, maybe the other two films we've watched, or just in general?
Maybe a little. I don't know. It was just. I don't know exactly the words I would use. I mean, sort of, but not. I don't know. I mean, it does have a bit of that look to it, but it's also much, much darker.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely that.
And I don't just mean the subject matter. I mean just the. So much of it is very dark as far as the coloration and stuff goes.
You're right. Now that you mention it, that's true. The color palette really is muted or dark throughout most of this film. We don't really get a lot of sharp coloring, except maybe for the eyes on the rabbits. Other than that, yeah, there are a lot of dark colors and the lighting as well. It's in the dark. Cole, how about you for what you remember of it for the artwork? How'd you feel about it and the style that it was handled in?
I thought it amazing. I mean, very, again, the type of animated film that I like, and not because of the violence, because it feels like somebody's hard work went into it. You can almost see the carpal tunnel in the passing frames. You know, and I mean that. It doesn't feel like the click of a mouse. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm not an old codger who's sitting up on my high throne going, you know, back in my day. No, I watch cartoons with my stepson, and I know where it's at. And so much of it just lacks the depth that is in this film. Mm-hmm. And it's not just, as I say, the violent moments, which definitely stand out to me more than anything else. But this film has character. You know, it has an artist's character. It has a creative character of its own that sticks in my brain. I mean, obviously, I think this is the only show that I put my name down for the spoiler room animated things. Not because it's the only one I liked, but because it's the only one that to me has had a lasting effect. And I know it's because the guys who were in the room doing this stuff, man, if they weren't animal lovers, they knew their rabbits. Mm-hmm. There's no greater example of bunny cruelty except for maybe the Pet Sematary 2 scene where Clancy Brown guts all those. I mean, this is an intense film.
It is intense, and yeah, I mean it starts off fairly quick. Intense as well, because we get the kind of introduction to the mythos of the rabbits, which I thought was interesting, where you have the Great Firth.
Yes, yeah.
And how they told about the story of all the animals were the same, but the rabbits screw it up. And, yeah. And then suddenly the Great Firth decide, okay, if you're going to screw it up, I'm going to make everybody want to eat you. But I just thought that was an interesting mythos to take. But even in that story, it gets bloody.
Yeah.
After the predators are made by the god, the bunnies are slaughtered. They're showing even the cartoon bunnies, and the canvas goes red. You're just like, oh crap.
Okay. But that's a lesson from the god though too, because he was punishing the Prince of Rabbits for being so proud about his, you know, basically the god goes to the rabbit and he tells the rabbit that, you know, change your ways, do something about it. He gives him that opportunity, and the Prince Rabbit goes and says, no, I've you know, my children are the strongest in the world. Why should I? And that's why the god had to choose to punish him. I thought that was neat.
Wow, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was an interesting explanation on why rabbits were the way they were, and if you didn't pick up the you know, undertones of some Christianity in there, I don't know. That's what I felt. You know, the whole exit of Eden, so to speak.
Yeah.
Story. Yeah. But through rabbits. Glenn, what'd you think of the mythos that they wrote up for these for the bunnies?
Oh, I love it. I mean, while this is the first time I have seen the movie all the way through, I have read the book several times. Okay. I even have a role-playing game based off the book called The Warren.
Shit! Oh.
Yeah, there's a role-playing game called The Warren.
Oh, wow.
Pretty much Watership down the RPG. So yeah, no, I love the mythos. It's fantastic. And it just feels I don't know, a little too close to home right now a bit in some ways.
It does kind of, especially with the way the Warren is run. The whole you can't leave the Warren. They have soldiers that basically protect the civilian rabbits, but at the same time kind of keep them from escaping. And our heroes, Hazel, his brother Fiver, and the group that follows them or tries to get out of their original Warren, find out, yeah, that's kind of the way it is everywhere for rabbits, which, wow, that was one of the things that caught me right away was I didn't catch that when I was a kid because obviously you're just seeing the bunnies and the bunnies are getting bloody and what the hell. But now the whole idea of the Warren being kind of, I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know the exact word because I'm horrible with words. Does that be totalitarian or?
Totalitarian.
Yeah. Is that the right word of what kind of society that they're in, or am I off on that?
A bit, yeah.
That's
right.
There was slight subtleties, though. There was like some Warrens were more police states, and others were more, it's hard to describe because as you're going through it, you can kind of point out the minor differences in the Warrens. They weren't totally, totalitarian in all aspects,
Yeah, well, but they also run across basically two other types of Warrens, because they leave one that they think is bad, and then they realize, oh, you know what, our Warren was pretty good, but they're leaving because Fiverr was psychic and had a vision of their Warren getting bloody and destroyed, which we come to find out is he was psychic and right on because where their Warren is getting developed by the evil humans.
Yeah.
those damn humans. But the bunnies are just as cruel to each other as the humans.
Yes, dude.
And so Hazel, who is kind of our, he's kind of, I don't want to say if he's a reluctant leader. Would you say, Paul, is he's the reluctant leader kind of, or he's the one that's just saying, well, I'm going to go if you guys want to come with me, sure. If not, screw you.
I think yeah, definitely. He's the leader that he doesn't start out trying to be the leader, but he's the leader that becomes one because he starts having really good ideas and he surrounds himself with good rabbits with good ideas. He had the two previous soldier type rabbits that kind of helped defend him. You have Blackberry, who's this very smart type of rabbit, and then you have his brother, who's like the psychic rabbit. And so by surrounding himself with these people that he trusts and that trust him, everyone else just sees him as a great leader because of that.
Yeah, he's just saying, I'm going to be the leader. Everybody kind of picks him because he was reluctant at first to even be titled that, wasn't he, Glenn? Where he kind of just held off and was like, well, no, don't give me that title at all. I'm not chief at all.
Yeah, you did.
And do you think that helps maybe you connect the character and feel a little more grounded than, say, making him, well, let's go, being superhero leader of sorts? I think that makes his character a little bit more acceptable. What about you?
Yeah, I would say so. It's refreshing that he just doesn't, immediately just be like, yeah, damn right, I'm the boss, bitches.
Now,
let's go do this.
Now, you said you've read the book a few times. How accurate was the movie to the book?
I would say it's fairly accurate. I mean, there's some liberties that we take because obviously you have a bit of a time constraint. I mean, the book's really not that long, but no, I think they did a pretty good job of it.
It was Hazel like that kind of in the book as well, the reluctant leader of sorts, or was he a little more gung ho, for lack of a better term?
I mean, it's been a while since I read it. Man, I'm trying to remember Hazel's character.
You actually remember Bigwig more than Hazel because Bigwig is the one that's kind of the guy who's like, yep, let's go do this.
But yeah,
I thought it was. Go ahead.
I was going to say, some of the events in the books happen in a different order than in the movie.
Yeah, that is true.
Exactly. Like Holly in the movie joins him after he escapes from the tragedy that happens to their Warren. In the in the book, he actually follows kind of the path that the rabbits had taken, and then they visit that other warren, the one that basically keeps all of their doe rabbits.
Right.
Then they go to there, and he's actually sent there as a kind of diplomat, and then he encounters all the things that in the movie they actually they compressed the time, and they, instead of having him follow the route of the other rabbits, what they had Holly do, Holly and some other rabbit actually escaped, and they went or in the movie only Holly runs into those rabbits, and you kind of see a flashback scene that sets you up for those events. So that part, yeah, a little bit different, and it, you know, and a lot of the characters too. There were much more like the hutch rabbits in the book. They had more of that event because as Holly was going to be the diplomat, Hazel went to the farm, and he was trying to free Clover. And in the book, he actually frees two of the hutch rabbits, and one of the there was a male hutch rabbit, so three of them join. But in the film, I don't think he actually succeeded at bringing any of those.
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
He tries to rescue and get some women's, and it just don't work because of the dog and the cat on the farm.
Well, a lot more rabbits die in the book too.
Yeah. Oh.
I do remember that from the book, that they had a bigger group, but they lost a lot more people too.
And there is, you have to read carefully because some of the rabbits' names change throughout the book.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because the rabbits have their own language.
Lapin or Lapin?
Something like that, yeah. And I mean, and some of the characters, like I know Bigwig and Fiver have Lapin names that are sometimes used in the book. So sometimes he's called Bigwig, sometimes he's called it's like Thale or Thali or something like that, or so that switches throughout as well. And I mean the movie really shortens Captain Holly when he's talking about the destruction of the original Warren.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, dude.
So, I mean, he talks about, you know, all the kittens that were crying for their mothers, and rabbits fighting each other. And like one of them fell and hit him, but was already dead, and just
So it was even worse in the book.
Oh yeah, it's very macabre.
Sure. It is. This is a macabre. I mean, the movie's macabre for what it you think it's going to be, from Watership Down and a bunny on the cover. And then,
well, it's an exploitation movie in a way. Christ, I mean, they show you the gashes, and I don't know. I remember those battle scenes well, vividly.
Yeah, and well, it's interesting because I like the way they handled the movie with that between the gashes, because this isn't all just violent films, but when you do but when you do get to the violent scenes, they stand out because they put just enough time between the violent scenes to where you almost forget that this is actually kind of a macabre story, and then all of a sudden something happens, like, we found this wonderful field where we're going to sleep in, and then the one bunny goes out from the field just to the edge to chew on some clover, and a hawk comes down and scoops them up right in front of the other rabbits. And it's just like, and I love their attitude about it too. It was, yeah, that happened.
Yep.
But I guess when you're a bunny, you know, and everything's trying to eat you, you kind of get used to that. I did think they did a good job in the film, which a lot of movies, even nowadays, I think lack. And you always had that sense of danger, though, for our guys, even when they finally, say, found their warren. Wouldn't you say, Cole, that there is at least a constant danger for our rabbits that never really lets up?
Well, I think that, I don't know if that comes with the era, Mark, but my favorite animated movie of all time is Bambi. It always will be, not because it makes some anti-hunter statement, but because it has compassion for the animals and it shows you the danger they're under. And, I was going to downplay this. Before I came on the show, I was like, okay, Cole, don't go off about, how few places there are for animals to run wild now. But really, the movie does kind of reflect that. And it doesn't do it in a cute way. It doesn't make it seem like, if these animals could only escape mankind, they'd be fine. They show you that they cause harm to themselves, too. And just how violent nature is, just how violent it is for everything to come out on top and to survive. And where are we going to go next? There's a danger coming to our home, our place of living. What's the next safe zone? I think it's an eternal theme, and I think it's why Watership Down is still lasts. I mean, it's still in my heart far more than heavy metal, or anything along those lines.
Sure.
To me, because it resonates like Bambi does. Not because I resonate with animals more, but because I think we all come from the same stuff. We all come from, all of us, everybody comes from the forest, and how are we going to make fire and survive? And these animals in the story have to not only resort to violence, but they understand that violence is a part of the cycle. I hope I answered your question. But,
no, you did. You did it.
I think that's why it has power, I swear, is because it's real stuff. It's the stuff that we're all made of, Yeah. We're all looking for our own Watership Down, in a way.
Our own place where we're going to feel safe to live and raise our babies.
Exactly.
Just if you're going to go and plan your warren, don't do like our bunnies did and forget to bring the other part of the equation you need for carrying on your which was a great moment in the movie, is when they're like, yeah, you know what, this is great, we found a place, but we're all guys. We aren't going to make it. Our group, our lineage isn't going to last too long because, yeah.
Sausage party.
which was interesting, again, for a kid's, supposedly, is a kid's movie. That's actually.
Supposedly, yeah. I mean,
which is an interesting theme, again, of the difference in times in addressing the fact that the rabbits breed it. I mean, they did that was like a main motivation for one of their things. But
yeah, man,
I just lost my thought for a minute. it just flew away. There's too much of breeding rabbits, I guess.
Oh,
okay, hold on. Glenn, I got back to it. Glenn, how about you?
You can edit this all out.
I can edit this out.
He won't.
I probably won't. But Glenn, how did you feel with the movie? Did you think that they did good about keeping that consistent feel of danger even when they finally found their warren?
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't. Well, yes and no. I mean, yes, because of the fact that I've seen enough movies to know that when something good happens in a movie that's been all bad, and there's still 30 minutes left. They're not going to have just 30 minutes of them sitting around, eating grass and singing songs.
Shit's going to go down.
Yeah.
Though I agree, is that you watch it, and then, because I hadn't watched it in a long time, I was remembered, I'm like, oh wow, they found the warren already, it must be near the end of the film, and then I saw there's a half hour left, and I'm like, nope, that's right, we got more to go. And then the violent bunnies, the very police state warren that they end up coming across, man, those guys, it's like, you know what, I saw this too. Now, who here has watched the Walking Dead series? Glenn, I know you have, right? Some of it, yeah. Tell me at all, this did not feel a bit like The Walking Dead, to where these guys are trying to survive at every place. Just when they think they found a place, it turns out it's just bad. either because of rabbits or some other situation, just like in Walking Dead. Would you say at all that this kind of had a feel like that? I mean, this came out way earlier than Walking Dead, but still, I mean, it's just every time they tried to find a place, it was danger, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it had that Walking Dead feel. Is I guess what just my point is, and I'm like, I wonder. Again, back to did this influence it? But then we'll go back to Glenn's answer of everything influenced everything.
Yeah. Well, the difference being is they make a point of when they notice that a piece of wood floats on the water, and they're like, yeah, we should remember that. It might come in handy again later. Yeah, they never do that in The Walking Dead. they never remember anything useful for later.
Yes.
So
that's true. That is different. That makes the rabbits smarter than the people of The Walking Dead. Because they run across the boat later, which helps them escape with the ladies from the police state. Which
guess what I compared this to? Mad Max. It was Mad Max with rabbits to me.
Wow. That's awesome.
Wow.
Now think about the women thing there.
Okay, that just now, there you go, folks. You heard it here. We've just equated Watership Down with Mad Max Fury Road. Yeah, okay. Now, the voice acting in here, I was surprised about how many, what voice actors they got for this, but I think everyone does just, I mean, they got a serious cast for this film. Paul, how'd you feel about the voice acting in this? I thought everything was spot on.
Oh, definitely. You know, they're all British, which I guess was okay.
Well,
I'm not picking on
it. Was
but
produced BBC, I think. Produced
yeah,
it.
and the new one is going to be as well. Yeah, they had some really good actors, and they were all believable. You could hear the little like fear in their voices when they needed to be. You could hear like Fiverr, you know, in Fiverr scenes. I was always captivated by that voice actor because he drew me in, and I just felt like, oh wow, that he's just, you know, he's being tormented by his own visions, you know.
Yeah, Fiverr was actually voiced by Richard Briers, who has been an actor in a number of films, including Cockneys versus Zombies.
Hey,
he passed away unfortunately about 4 years ago, but
oh man.
But yeah, he's did a lot of work, and especially I'm looking back here for Watership Down. You know, he was a well-known, looks like British actor. I mean, he was in a lot of stuff for them, and it looks like they picked kind of from their group of very talented folks to do this film. I mean,
John Hurt.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I loved John Hurt as Hazel. You know, I really enjoyed his voice acting, and even Delome Elliott in here, who has been in a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of veteran actors in this film. You know, everybody thinks of him as just being in Indiana Jones as kind of, you know, the goofy sidekick, so to speak. But how do you pronounce that? Oh yeah, Denholm. I thought he was fantastic as well in this. Everybody does. Just it added to it, and you know the British accent felt fitting because isn't the author British?
Well, and Watership Down is an actual place that is in England. So yes.
Yeah. See, I know very little about geography. That's why I have everybody here. All you guys are a hell of a lot smarter than I am. That's why.
No, certainly not. Certainly not myself. But I just like to say, like, as a kid, the British accent contributed to it in a way, because as a second, third grade kid, you know, growing up in Madison, Wisconsin, it just contributed to the otherworldliness of it. Obviously, children now are far more sophisticated with the internet, and you can talk to anybody on the planet at any given time of the day. But at that time in my life, to see a cartoon that was extremely violent with British accents, I guess maybe prepared me for Bane and the like. It was pretty cool.
Well, and also too, the characters were based on people that the author met in his life, like in the military, and
Oh, really?
yeah, a lot of the
Oh, I didn't know
characters
that.
are very much based on the people that he knew, and
Oh,
so
wow.
the personalities of the rabbits are all these people that he knew. So it's fitting that they would have that accent because that's what he heard in his mind too.
Oh,
So
that's rad. That's rad, man.
Well, and especially for back, in the 80s, when I growing up in the 80s and you're watching this, and it still does today, but you just got a certain, I guess, picture of things when you heard a different accent than, especially when you're a kid. Like you said, adds a little bit more foreign, but like with the British, at least here in the US, they always kind of stereotyped that with sophistication of sorts. So at least in the TV and that, I mean, even in jokes and that, the how the British were kind of portrayed even in jokes and that. So I'm wondering, Glenn, would you say the fact that it's all British actors and those preconceived notions or those stereotypes that they kind of built up that go along with a British accent, do you think that causes the violent scenes to have a little more impact because you don't expect it because of the type of characters they are?
No.
No? Oh.
No, because I know British. I know what the Brits are capable of, based on history. So,
right. But I mean, as a kid though, I could see how that'd be more shocking, wouldn't you? Or maybe not. Maybe I'm way off. But I was just thinking that the way the portrayal was, maybe that added the more impact to the violent scenes, which were already overly violent.
I don't think it really added. I mean, at least. I mean, mind you, I didn't watch this as a kid,
right?
But, I mean, the Brits are all, in so many of the movies I grew up watching, the Brits were always the bad guys, anyways. Or a Brit, I should say. Most supervillains, were, so many things. They were the guys with the accents.
Yeah, that's true.
Gosh, would this have been circulated in classrooms with American voices though?
No.
I mean, would it have? Maybe. It just seemed like almost, I don't know. It seemed to tame it in a way, almost like, oh, this is happening over there, so we can show it to you. I don't remember many cartoons that were shown in the classroom. I mean, Watership Down was basically it. In fact, on the last day of school, they were going to show Back to the Future, and it got cut out because Marty McFly is in his underwear for one scene.
Wow.
So,
but yet they showed.
Yes, they showed Watership Down, which is extremely violent. I'm just saying, not to contradict anyone, but I do think that maybe the British voices and maybe just the fact that it wasn't from here in the mid 80s contributed to it being okay to show in a classroom. Maybe it was like, oh, this is what's happening there, not so much here. I don't know. There's never been anything like it. I can't think of any cartoon I've ever watched in school like this. It's sort of mind-boggling. Maybe I'm showing my age, but
well, no.
wow.
The fact it's got bunnies, I think, lulls people in a certain expectation. When Paul, this is actually a kids' war film, isn't it? I mean, this is a war picture. It's almost like it's portraying war.
It was never intended that way.
Really?
Yeah, the author, he never intended to have all this adult allegory. These were stories that he told his daughters while driving or wherever. He was telling his daughters, and his daughters convinced him to write all these stories down. He just wanted to have this grand story to entertain his kids, and he didn't even have any lessons. It just popped in. It's just a dad telling his kid some stories. And we, as humans, we try to find meaning sometimes when there isn't. And I'm guilty of it, a lot, because I love finding the hidden meanings in things. But, he never intended it. But it does happen because it's such a great story. It has so much meaning, and it's artistic. And art is meant to be interpreted by its readers, its viewers. So you can take it any way you want. If you find that it's a war movie, it's a war movie. If you find it's a political movie, it's a political movie. If it's a superhero movie or Mad Max with rabbits, it's Mad Max with rabbits.
Though I would have loved to see Hazel and Bigwig in a war rig driving through the fields, being chased by wolverines and other rabbits. And
but it had kind of same with the plot elements. They're journeying, and that everything around them is falling apart. And then when you think everything is good, they reach their destination. They run into the big bad, the actual big bad of the story, and he attacks them, and then the hero has to, and it's just, it was all fun. It was all fun.
It was. And
I'm getting lost in the story right now.
Until the bunnies conflict with each other, which I have to say, we as folks we've alluded to, and it's probably it's the thing. That's why I called this kind of a therapy session, because for me as a kid, the scenes were graphically, the violence is graphically portrayed on here, but for me, watching it again now, it felt more though that they weren't doing it just to be shocking. It did actually have a purpose, didn't it, Glenn, in here, rather than just being shocking? Or was it just being done to shock the hell out of you? You go, oh look, bunny guts.
I'm sorry.
Well, no, I think it's made just. I mean, yeah, it's partly there to shock you, but it's also just. I mean, yeah, it makes a point. I mean, it's the best way to sum that up. I don't know, man. I mean, it's. I mean, I think shocking kind of is the point a bit.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it wasn't just put in there to be put in there. It's shocking for a purpose.
Well, for a purpose, yeah. This isn't hostile with rabbits. There's purpose for this. It's not just simply meant to be, let's gross some people out.
Yeah. I mean, because I think sometimes people might equate that when they watch this, but I looked at it showing the horrors of conflict and how extreme it can get when you get two different opinions or philosophies that clash with each other.
Well, that's absolutely what it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that 1,000%. And yeah. I'm sorry, I might have just cut somebody off. I know.
No, go ahead.
Speaking, but before I get off the topic, I'd just like to say, and I agree with everything Paul said before I'm speaking right now, but I just want to say, sometimes an author's take on his own work is not the end-all, be-all summation of the work. Sometimes when an author says, hey, I didn't fucking mean that, pardon my French, he's full of shit. I mean, sometimes it takes your girlfriend, your father, your mother to come along and you read your novel, your script, or anything and say, look, this subtext is not only there, but it's blatantly obvious. And how dare you say it's not? So I would just like to say that with not just with Watership Down, but with any story that maybe the author says, hey, I didn't mean it. Yeah, but maybe you did.
But couldn't it be subconscious? I mean, because
no, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying damn, dude.
He didn't go into making Watership Down, with all this adult allegory and this metaphor and stuff for religion and conflicts and politics and everything. But it's there, and it was in his subconscious. And as Paul mentioned, he took these from experiences that from meeting people who did experience war and that. So maybe that.
So it's inherent in his experience, maybe not his viewpoint.
Right, in his viewpoint, he thinks he's just telling a story, but
exactly, yeah, man.
Would you say that, Paul, that maybe, even though he didn't intend all of it, it was something maybe in his subconscious or he didn't realize was there? Because, a lot of times you don't realize, sometimes the last person to know that they're crazy is the crazy person.
Love that. Love it. Yes, no, I agree with you. That does make a lot of sense. I mean, and you can feel that. You can feel that in there, and the source material that he kind of based it on. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what it feels like in here. And out of the warrens we had, I mean, we had the warren they start out with, which was kind of policed, and then we had the end warren, which was the extreme policed. I'm trying to still quite figure out the hopeless warren, the second warren they meet. Glenn, these guys, it was kind of hard to get an angle of it. Were these rabbits, this warren, the ones that just kind of gave up on life and are just taking the fact that they're at the bottom of the food chain, or were they lulling these guys to try to lure them in to be rabbit cannibals? I mean, what was your take on that middle warren that they,
with when the snare happens, you're talking about, right?
Yeah, just before the snare happens.
No,
yeah.
they are basically they're bringing in other people to sacrifice them to the farmers, so that they themselves don't get caught. You keep the farmers fed, and the farmers keep throwing this food out for them to keep the rabbits fed, but none of them want to die, so let some strangers die.
So these were kind of the passive-aggressive rabbits.
Sure.
so to speak, in that they didn't kill the rabbits, kill the wabbit. They didn't kill our heroes, but or try to kill them, but at the same time they didn't warn them either about the snares. They're just like, oh yeah, no, we got all this food, man, and we're good, and if they didn't look like someone had beaten them to death just about, within an inch of their life, you could buy into it. But I mean, looking at those guys, I'm like, I would never go into their warren. I'm like, no, I don't need food. No, I really don't need it that badly, guys. You enjoy. But yeah, I mean, they were odd. It took me a little while to get my head around that group. Paul, what'd you think of them? Were they just kind of the guys who were do you think they regretted luring these rabbits in, or they're relieved luring the rabbits in?
Oh, I think they were doing whatever it took to survive. And that's and you guys were talking about how different groups react and interact with others, and this is a good example of that, where you had this group that was together. They escaped from their warren and they had adventures, and so they had this tightness about them. And then we don't get to see the background story of this other warren, but you can kind of imagine that they had an entire kind of survival adventure on their own too, where they had to huddle together and they had to do whatever it survived. Maybe they did resort to, well, they didn't have to resort to
cannibalism.
Cannibalism, I'm sorry. Because they were being fed, but it was interesting because you kind of feel for them, and you had their representative being this like very poetic individual, and he looked at death as this kind of poetic type of thing, and it was just and so these two groups come together, and of course this old group is not going to trust the new group, and they're going to try to stay, and they're going to keep doing the things that they do to survive, even after the new rabbits found a way to basically figured out the snare, how to get it resolved. Those rabbits that were in the middle warren didn't go with them. They didn't join them because they were still doing the things that they needed to do, that they thought and that they were comfortable doing to survive.
Yeah.
Although it did show kind of the dark side of all the bunnies out there, because the minute they fixed the warren, what happens, Glenn? What does the group want to do to them? After they free their guy from the snare, what's the first thing they want to go do?
Let's kill him!
Yeah!
They fucked us over. Let's go kill that other warren, and then we could take their warren, and it'd be all good. I'm just like, whoa!
And then we can lure people into sacrificing to the farmers, and then we'll be all good.
But I was glad they saw that, because that reminds you that our heroes aren't exactly the squeaky clean rabbits either. That's just the way life is. And it's also rather human.
Yes. Yes.
It was a human trait of, oh, hey, these guys wronged us. Let's go wrong them worse. It's like, dude, wow, you guys are the hero. And Hazel's like, no, we don't want to go killing them. I mean, we could kick their ass, but we'll go elsewhere. So, yeah,
and
this
wasn't
is
the place Fiverr wanted either. So
no, it wasn't, because Fiverr was psychic, which the mysticism part of that kind of threw me, because I didn't remember that as a kid. The whole precognitive type of, because it wasn't just Fiverr. There were one or two other rabbits who had that as well. Paul, did that feel out of place, or did that work well, do you think, within the rest of the world of the film that were presented? Because it felt just a little odd to me that it was in there, in a good way, but still just kind of like, whoa, we've got psychic rabbits?
yeah, well, actually, it does make sense to me because of something that Glenn had mentioned about Fiverr having a different name in Lapin.
Mm-hmm.
His name actually means like little thousand. And the reason for that is because if you look at a rabbit, they only have basically 4 fingers. So their word for anything greater than 4 is the same word. So if it's greater than 4 or 1,000, it's the same word. And Fiverr's name is that word. And so he's this special thing because he's outside of their realm of thinking. He's beyond their thought,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so that's so it was clear to me that yes, Fiverr is definitely a special rabbit.
Well, yeah, I understand he was a special rabbit. For me, it felt a little, with the way other things are portrayed through the film, you don't kind of quite feel that I guess, lack of a better term, mysticism or whatever, that psychic, that type of world, that type of element in this world, but then you have it there, and it just, for me, it felt a little, I mean, in a good way, but still, it just felt a little odd to have that versus, the way the rest, the world built that they, had. They don't talk about it much, though. I will say we get the prayer, Glenn, near the end, where Hazel's enacting his plan to save the bunnies to the boat, and he actually prays to his God first, which kind of had that Conan moment feel of praying to Crom, but
Conan with rabbits.
Conan with rabbits. How'd you feel about that, the psychicness and then the prayer? Did you think that fit in with what was portrayed during most of the film with the characters? Because they didn't seem that, it just, I guess it seemed like an out of place element with the way the rest of the film had played out, or
a little bit, yeah. I mean, especially the whole thing in the beginning, where he's all like, "Oh, the field's covered in blood. We have to go away." But I don't know. It's also it seems odd where he's prophetic in such a way when most of the movie is very much more or less linked or grounded in, I guess, a more concrete reality.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I was going for, that it's grounded. Most of the film is grounded, but you do get these little elements in here. And I guess for me, it didn't take me out of the film. I just thought it was like, whoa, it's like, where'd this come from? I didn't quite expect this. And then suddenly, for the first time, we get the only time Hazel prays to the gods. So, we hadn't seen him really pray before. And for him to do that, is that just to maybe accent the point of how important this battle was for him, that he was actually praying for once? Or do you think his character was praying all along? It just didn't get conveyed in the movie for Hazel, because he's praying at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it. I don't think it ever comes up at any other time, and I don't know if it's really. I mean, there's plenty of people who, wait till the shit has really, really, really hit the fan before they're like, yeah, I need every little bit I can get here.
Sure.
So, hey, an 80s sitcom would have them do the whole, they go like, hey, God, it's, me, Hazel.
Yeah.
The rabbit. So, yeah,
Yeah.
So that's fine. Although I just love the whole scene in the movie with the boat where it's like, so that whole boat thing bought you like 12 seconds.
Yeah.
Because they like get back to the war. And it's like, hey, we're back. Oh yeah, there's the general. What? How did he get a crowd? Did he have his own boat? He's just like, all right, go get the jet skis.
The supervillain rabbits had jet skis. Yeah, the villain rabbits seemed to catch up with them fairly quick, but I think that was just a little bit of the weakness of conveying of time. With it, I think it was some time since they got back to the Warren before the general actually shows up. I don't think maybe that was portrayed, because the way it's edited, yeah, it seems like, oh, we got back from the boat. That was a great boat ride. And holy shit, how'd you get here so fast? We hopped on a truck.
Bionic bunny.
Bionic bunnies. So I think we'll wrap it up here. As you can tell, folks, this film, there's lots of layers and things going on in this film. And to wrap your head around it, you have to watch it, I think, more than once. I'll go down the line here and just ask if there is something we haven't covered yet that maybe you wanted to talk about. Paul, is there anything that we haven't mentioned yet that you might have a question for the group, or something you wanted to mention?
I just wanted to mention that when I watched this as a younger adult, I looked at the story much differently than I did as an adult. I actually looked at more as a kind of an adventure, and it was like a group coming together and becoming friends, and then them having adversity. As an adult, I saw a lot of the more darker parts of this film, and I don't know if that's a reflection of me as I got older. Did I become a darker person now, or is it, am I? And honestly, as a kid, I remember this thing being a very exciting and more happier movie than it was when I watched it 2 days ago. When I watched it 2 days ago, I kind of felt like Fiverr, and it was like giving me a weird kind of like, oh my goodness, this is a really dark film. Am I watching the right version?
Wait! You thought it was a happier film when you're
I did.
That's what they call in psychology as repressed memory.
No. It was because I focused on the journey, the companionship. That's what I focused on as a kid, because death to me was a concept that I wasn't familiar with, and
Sure.
to me it was more like bullying. Oh, the other rabbits are biting the ear off there. Stop bullying him. Blah blah blah.
Sure. Sure. No, I'm just giving you shit. No, I'm
Okay,
just
all right.
no.
Me. Come on. Stop biting my ear.
I'll stop biting your ear. No, I'm just giving you shit. No, it's great that's what you remember as a kid.
Is that weird?
That is interesting that you picked out those parts. Which is cooler that you took it that way, which is a very cool way, and not the way I've heard of many people describe it when watching it as a child. Glenn, how about you? Any mention or comment or a statement you want to make about the film, or a question that we haven't possibly covered yet at all? Something that you might have noticed? Huh?
Bunnies are hardcore. That's what I gotta add. Bunnies are hardcore.
Bunnies are hardcore, and actually, real life bunnies don't ever try to pick one up, folks. There's a reason their back legs are so strong. If you ever watch a video on YouTube, watch a bunny versus snake, and the bunny wins. And you don't think so. You think, oh, the cute little fuzzy bunny. No, when they get pissed, their back legs are lethal weapons. And yeah, it's actually kind of scary. So yeah, bunnies are hardcore. I like that, Glenn. That should be a T-shirt, I think.
Nice.
And Cole, how about you? Any mention or comment or a question you might have about the film?
No, I mean, just that it's like you said, it has a lot of layers. It sticks out to me at a point in my life where, like I said, this is early on in my life. Like Halloween 4 hadn't even come out yet. Mm-hmm. And I was writing short stories that I was reading aloud in class. And I was getting a lot of weird looks, and then a year later or a couple months later, whatever the time frame is there, they show this to the class, which is Jesus. It's an intense story about survival and nature and just the reality of, I don't know, the reality of life for a certain number of people. Not for all of us, obviously, but the struggle is real. I mean, I think that the people who remember this story to this day appreciate the struggles that go into life. I'll say that. I hope that isn't too deep, but
you could
I
get,
think it applies.
Just because it's the spoiler room doesn't mean we can't get deep on this show.
I'm sorry, man.
I'm all good for deep. Because I'm going to get deep for a minute here. I will say, for me, this is the reason this film honestly stuck into my head, and it's one we didn't quite address in here in the spoiler room tonight, but I'm going to bring it up to the group quick, was the rabbit's approach to death stuck out for me at a young age, and it still kind of unnerves me today with the concept of death, with the whole idea of the black rabbit and the black rabbit showing up at your time of death. And I don't know why exactly, but I think that concept that they portrayed in the movie flipped the switch for me at a fairly early age about my own mortality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to get too deep, but that's the simple truth of why this film stuck out to me, and I was glad that everybody voted that we would do this one, because I don't know what it is about it that's the way it's portrayed. Maybe it was just the concept or the philosophy, but for me, that flipped the switch for me, that some kids, maybe it doesn't at that early of an age, going, yeah, everything dies,
But here's the weird thing. The reason why it didn't impact me as much is we brought this up in an earlier podcast. I believe in reincarnation, so I didn't look at Hazel like in all these, like at the very end where he finally meets the black rabbit. I looked at him as the black rabbit was also the prince of rabbits, the one of the 1,000 enemies, coming to him and saying, now join me, and then have this new life. And then you see Hazel's spirit kind of bouncing around, and I always envisioned him coming back as another rabbit. So I guess that's where the difference is between you and I was. Oh, neat! I never even thought of that until you brought it up.
I know, right?
Yeah,
that's why you need to watch the show all the time.
Like I said, that's that's what hit hard for me, was that. And yeah, let me tell you, that affected me. That's why I hadn't watched the film much afterwards. Glenn, how'd you feel about their idea with the handling of death? Do you think they maybe portray it at a level that many kids could understand in it, that it didn't get too...
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, how'd you feel about the black rabbit and that angle that they took with it? With
it's like Krampus, dude.
Wow.
Comes to take you away, man. No, I liked it. I thought it was well done, and I thought it was. I mean, the whole thing they do when they think Bigwig is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. And then, well, I kind of like it because that's there and they mention it, but they don't. For lack of a better term, they don't beat you over the head with that idea throughout the film, like some films could do. Easily, you could see it always coming. Oh, the black rabbit's going to come get him. Oh, every bunny that dies, it's like, but they just kind of either mention it or just look at it, going, oh yeah, we're bunnies, we get killed. Let's move on.
Bye, Violet.
Bye, Violet. See ya. Have a fun ride.
Yeah.
Do we look at? Go ahead.
Instead, just like, oh yeah, look at that. There's a hawk. Oh, there's Violet. I could maybe say something, but whoops, too late.
I know. That kind of made me chuckle.
Well, not very psychic there, are you, funny?
Maybe he thought it was a vision that it was going to happen, so she had plenty of time. Oops.
Oh, dang! There went our only dough. Crap. Way to go, Fiverr. So, yeah, we'll wrap it up here. There's many things that you can go into, and many things that people have talked about this movie. And yeah, I recommend go see it, seek it out. It's on Amazon for a few bucks.
It's on YouTube for free.
And it's on YouTube for free. Probably doesn't look it quite as good, but still, it's out there. And if you do watch it with your kids, just be warned. It is mature, even for standards back then, but especially by today's standards for a film like this. But there are a lot of interesting concepts that I'm sure you'll be talking about with the younger ones if you do watch it quite after, and probably up one or two late nights as they picture the bunnies clawing themselves and ripping ears and murdering one another.
Bullying.
Bleeding. Lots of blood. Lots of cartoon blood, well drawn in this film, but still. So we'll have people go down the line. Just give your final, really quick, brief thought on this film, and then where they can find you at. So go ahead, Cole, you first.
Well, thank you for having me, Mark, and everybody here tonight, Glenn and Paul. Thanks for talking about this movie, which, like I said, is my second favorite animated movie ever, the first being Bambi. Oh. But this sticks out to me just because it is a struggle that I think if you look at all the subtext, which everybody has talked about here tonight, specifically Paul and Glenn, but there's subtext there, and man and nature both go through the same thing. In fact, man versus nature might just be an illusion. In any case, my page is Shadows and Lovers Productions. The movie is The Last Great Horror Movie, which will be available digitally very soon. My name is Cole Meredith, and I'm just honored to be a part of the Spoiler Room. These are brilliant men, and they set the standard. So, thanks for talking.
Those are very kind words. You're way too kind, Cole, but thank you very much for that. We appreciate it, and you add an extra interesting voice as well, especially with tonight's discussion. So, Glenn, how about you? Just your final quick thought with this film and where they can find you at.
Bunnies are still hardcore. And you can find me on Facebook with Guy in a Bunker Productions and the BB Bunker, YouTube, Guy in a Bunker Productions and the BB Bunker, or just follow me on Twitter at Guy in a Bunker.
Awesome. And Paul, you?
My final thought is, like Mad Max, Hazel goes off alone at the end of the story, basically. So Mad Max with rabbits. You can find me on Forsaken Film Reviews, and now you can hear me on Film Jerks, which is part of Astro Radio Z.
Yes, excellent group of podcasters on Astro Radio Z, and tune in to Film Jerks. Definitely interesting discussion on blood mania.
Honk, honk.
Honk, honk. And I guess my final thought for this film is, yeah, it's intense, it's dark, but it also has a lot of universal themes that still can be applied today. And I do recommend you watch it, even if it might be a little difficult to watch. I think occasionally we need to watch films like this and have films like this. So it makes you think. It's real easy to sit in a movie that's in your comfort zone, but when you sit in a movie that's outside of your comfort zone, like this film and the subject of death is with me, it makes you think and think things over and ponder and possibly open your brain up to new ideas, or maybe even change your mind on on some ideas. So you can find everything here at specialmarkproductions.com as far as Spoiler Room goes, as well as my Final Cut reviews. There's usually the 6 most current episodes of the Final Cut on the webpage. Plus, I've started a blog, which I haven't put much in except the 6 mystery boxes of VHS that I found. You can find out more information about that there. And all the information, links for all these fine folks' material is there as well. So we appreciate you tuning in. Hope you found this discussion interesting. This is probably the heaviest out of the 3 film we've done this month so far, but don't worry, it'll get a lot lighter with next week's episode. So stay tuned for that. And now say goodnight, gentlemen.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Gentlemen.